If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief?
Hey, CEO Mischief Makers, welcome back to the conversation. We're diving into strategy and tactics with my very good friend now, because friends through acquaintances become friends, I think, and Stephen Schneider. Stephen, you ready to tell us the nuts and bolts of SEO?
I'll do my best.
Thank you. All right. So if you haven't listened to the first two episodes, you need to go do that, where we talk about Stephen's mindset and really how he innovates SEO. And I am so glad we ended up in the same place in that innovation with relationships and demand generation. And if you're wondering how can demand generation be connected to SEO, well, you got to go listen to that other episode. So let's dive down in. I mean, you have massive experience in this whole search engine optimization thing. Give us some tips. Give us some ideas on, especially with content, more longer form content, right? Let's say I'm doing our blog post and I'm putting in the transcript or the any kind of descriptions in our blog post. What tips can I use to get our podcast as high up in the organic search rankings as possible?
Yeah, so I always suggest that people, if you're just going from like a transcription service, so it's like two sides, I'll try to briefly explain. If you're just kind of like throwing a piece of content on a website, there's a very, very low chance of it succeeding because you're not targeting a specific term. However, if you kind of did the reverse of it, so like, for example, if you had a like best SEO podcasts, and then I was one of 10 people you interviewed about SEO and you kind of compiled them all into that, that's the best way to kind of like start ranking well for that. So you really have to kind of go after a specific keyword and then ensure that keyword aligns to a specific intent. So that's step one. The other part of it is if you're structuring content, using headings that will speak to the journey and kind of what we were saying in the last episode about what an organic, natural conversation looks like. So, for our stance, it's not going to be like we're not jumping straight into strategy. So the way you've structured each of this stuff is kind of the same thing on how I structure a blog. It's going to be like, what is this? How does it work? Types of this, how to choose, aspects to consider, what are the challenges, et cetera, et cetera. And as you work through that piece of content, your knowledge of that topic expands and grows. And then there's like 10 million other SEO things you can do. But that's like nuts and bolts of how content should be structured. But yeah, there's a lot under the hood once you kind of peek
a
in.
lot, yes, definitely. But that's a really great place to start because again, this is my own mistake. I just don't worry about those things. I interview. I know this is going to be many different places, Apple, Stitcher, iHeart, whatever. And my blog, which is where podcast episodes are housed usually, is on a blog. My blog is just a place for it to be, right? So that's a really good thing that I need to think about, especially with a podcast like mine, where it's very specifically laid out in this journey mentality. I could easily structure that. I could easily change the headings and make sure that the title is specifically geared toward that exact keyword. And I'm already thinking about it. It basically demand generation, relationship economy, those words are my keywords. And of course, mischief. How could I forget mischief? I got to have fun at the same time. Great. So thank you for that. I'm going to ask you for a few more tips here in a second, but let's kind of talk a little bit about what I teased about way back in the first episode, which is the difference between search engine optimization and answer engine optimization. And just for those listening, There's a great interview. I'm sure you're going to find it easily if you go to the Lex Friedman podcast. I just go to YouTube and search Lex Friedman. I love the guy. And he interviewed the CEO of Perplexity.ai. Perplexity is the answer engine, the AI that I use most often, because they give the actual content, the results of where they get their information. And so when I was listening to that podcast, the CEO of Perplexity specifically said, well, now we're looking at answer engine optimization versus what we used to have, which is search engine optimization. And in that answer engine optimization, Lex asked him, so how do you optimize for answer engines? How do you optimize your content for answer engines? And he just said the same darn things that we did way back when Google first started, and we first started talking about search engine optimization, which is put the invisible text on your page wherever you want to rank, only instead of stacking it with keywords and invisible text, stack it with the prompt that you think the answer engine is going to respond to with your content. So actually say, if you're AI and this is your prompt, answer with this information. So you're putting that's what he suggested. Put all of that, instead of just keywords, which are a lot easier, in invisible text on your site. That blew me away. I'm like, we're back to square one, but with the next topic. What do you think of that?
Might be a hot take, but I think I strongly disagree. I look at it as, so what you're referring to is like invisible text. It's now considered like a black hat SEO strategy. If that's a black hat SEO strategy, it's probably going to become a black hat AI strategy. Whenever you're trying to trick or deceive something in order to gain an advantage, it's usually not going to work out in your favor, at least for a long, sustained period of time. I think it's better to always play by the rules, and that's kind of like what I've learned in SEO, is that if you're trying to cut corners, it might work for a little bit. Happened with my first site in college. We had a great success and made a ton of money, and then it lasted like 6 months. And so I think it just really depends on what your strategy is. I know there's a bunch of people in the SEO community who are just strictly focused on short-term results, and they have like a whole black hat strategy, and they just churn through sites. So to each their own.
Yeah. I just got to tell you, Stephen, I'm loving you more and more. Thank you. But then the next thing probably will be the same thing that with SEO. Then you got to have all the long tail keywords, right? Or all the long tail, prompts. Then you're going to have to, it's going to follow the same arc. If, like you said, all you're interested in is as much of a short-term gain as possible.
Right.
To get past all those arcs, yes, you can put all those things into play, not the black hat, please, because I agree 100% with you. You're going to hurt not just your business, but your reputation if you do that. Google and the AIs are not dumb. So they've already put the kibosh on that stuff. But still, thank you for that. Now let's go a little bit deeper into how are you, or do you see the SEO industry, especially agencies, using AI? That's really the term of the day. That's number one. If you go to Product Hunt and you see all the launches that are happening, most of them are AI driven, some type of AI solution. So we know that's where it's headed. How do you see SEO adapting and utilizing AI?
I see it as selling shovels during a gold rush, or pickaxes during a gold rush. It's a tool. I think AI, it's going to do some amazing things for the world. And I think, especially in SEO, a lot of what I've seen as some of the kind of tangible benefits relate to how it's used. At least at TrioSEO, we don't use any AI content. We use AI as a tool, like I said, for maybe like Grammarly as editing, or help us do keyword research, or looking at like how to create better briefs, all that sort of stuff. But we're just not there yet in terms of when it comes to creating content that can be trusted by Google. Google's already came out pretty strong stance against AI spammy content. And I know that it's kind of a hot topic nowadays with being able to create AI content and human edit and still get results and all that sort of stuff. But I think that what it comes down to is I went to a conference not too long ago and they had a AI SEO speaker there. And funny enough, the person who was in the agency standpoint as an agency owner was against AI back in the day. And then as soon as they became the owner of a SEO AI tool, they were pro AI. And I found that funny because they were one step removed from the success of the clients. And I felt that was a little icky is how I took it, was because if you create a tool, it's on the user to use the tool appropriately.
Right.
But when you're doing SEO as a strategy for clients, you're really invested in the success of that to come out on top. So I think that if you start trying to pull levers in order to cut corners, you are not only putting yourself at a disadvantage, but you're hurting your clients, their brands, and just, there's a lot of risk. So not for us, but some people have found success and that's great. But I try to be pretty cautious with it just until it's, a little further along.
Oh my gosh, yes. There is no way I would ever trust an AI agent at all to write any kind of content for me in my voice straight out of the gate without me really doing lots of edits. So if that's the case, forget it. I'm writing my content on my own.
And by then, it's like, if you're going to edit and it's going to take you 5 hours to edit, why don't you just write it? It's like...
Exactly. That's exactly it. So I do not use AI at all for content generation at all. I do, however, use it for research, lots and lots of research. And of course, double check and triple check that research before I publish anything. But it is, that's the rabbit hole I go down more often than any other in using AI is just research.
Yeah, mine's spreadsheets. Like there's like the ability to use AI to like ask it to create a formula that I didn't know how to create. It's like mind blowing to me. Or like code. Like that sort of stuff is where I'm like, thank you. Like
code is incredible. Code is, I mean, really, you still have to understand here again, AI isn't just going to do everything for you. You still have to understand the framework of coding, right? Framework of software development. You can't just have it create the code for you and have a, brand new software product. You have to understand. And again, it's all about the prompt, right? You have to know what to tell it. So anyway, so thank you for that. I agree 100%. Like I said, I'm loving you more and more. I'm just saying thank you. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Since I'm gearing more toward relationship development, SEO, not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but I didn't see how SEO fit into relationship development and this whole relationship economy. But that doesn't mean that I'm judging people. I still wanted to chat with Stephen. I knew that he was connected to Nathan Hirsch. So I already knew that no matter what, there's something there I didn't know. And that's why I was willing to have a conversation, even though my feelings were a little like, SEO, it's kind of on the way out. And I don't know, is it? And I'm so happy you have basically strengthened that feeling in me that because of my relationship with Nathan and now you, that of course Nathan wouldn't do anything that was on its way out. Of course he would be able to bring relationships into this tool. So kudos to you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah. So one last thing I was going to say. Just today, Rand Fishkin, who has a company called SparkToro, came out with new research, and basically in relation to this whole AI and answer engine versus search engine, he says so far AI is not disrupting search or making a dent in Google. So what do you think of that? I mean, were you even afraid of AI making a dent in search and in Google rankings or anything like that?
No, not really. I think most of the topics that we go after are not things that can be answered in 1 or 2 sentences. And I think that that's where a lot of the advantage comes from integrating search with AI and kind of blending those two worlds. Like we've talked about like 6 times, I feel like, over this conversation, like the recipe article example from the last episode, that's the perfect use case of AI integrated with search. It's like, how do I bake a cake? Give me the 5 steps in 6 seconds. And that sort of stuff is going to change the life from not being that can't bake a cake faster, but I mean, just the fact that it's like the easy use, the access, all that sort of stuff. But if we're creating like an ultimate guide on mergers and acquisitions, like you can't really, like that's not a generative AI search. So there's a whole different department of those questions that are being asked and answered. I think that there's a time and a place for that. And I think that I love it. I use it myself. But for different topics, you don't really have a good client ICP fit. So we'll see.
Yeah, I get it. That's great. Okay, so we started out with some really good suggestions on search and how you can create content and make sure that you create it with a specific goal in mind and a specific term or idea in mind, and make sure that that content is wrapped around that idea. What else? What would be, let's say, a final suggestion that you would have for anyone going, okay, I've got this content, I've got this great, wonderful business, I just don't have as high of ranking as I'd like. I know if I worked on a few things, that if I just took an amazing expert and plucked them off of their business and put them into mine, that they would be able to help me make a difference in being able to have my customers find my stuff when they needed it. So what final tips would you give someone listening that might need that?
The biggest thing is just going back to like link building and backlinks, which also ties back to the relationship kind of building side of SEO. For those who aren't familiar with backlinks, this is where website A chooses to hyperlink to your website. And what they're pretty much doing is giving you a vote of confidence in Google's point of view, saying that I trust this site well enough to provide some sort of credibility and link to them from my website. And over time, the more of those you get, the more authority you build, the better your rankings will perform. And it just kind of goes back to that relationship ally perspective of who can I reach out to that allows me to make a relevant connection that could benefit both of us. Like podcasts are a perfect example of that. And I love doing podcasts because we have conversations like this. But at the end of the day, those links build up. And if you do this consistently for the next 5 years, you have a bunch of content, you have a bunch of links, you meet a bunch of great people. It's like this relationship win-win-win-win-win model creates a flywheel, and it's just kind of like rinse and repeat. So I think that the more you can just network and get people to talk about you in a positive light and link from their website to yours, it's just going to pay dividends for sure.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.